We've all got scars, some on the outside and some on the inside. But we can't be defined by our scars. I've spoken with some extraordinary people about how they've become empowered by their scars. This is I've Got Scars, baby.
So, I am so excited to have you here.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, we have a very special guest, Alicia Jones. She is incredible. Like, she has a very powerful story. She is an author, and we're going to be talking about the scars of motherhood. We're going to be talking about some things that can be a very sensitive subject. I'll just kind of say it like that. But, speaking with you, Alicia, I heard your story and I was just like, okay, so how is this woman smiling? She's beautiful. She put makeup on. She got her earrings on. Look at the like, how do you do that, having gone through what you've gone through? And so, we're going to unpack the story and everything, but I just want you to know that as soon as you told me a story, I was just like, I don't know. I don't know if I could have totally handled it. Okay.
Thank you. I just want to thank you so much, Audrey, for having me on the show. It's such an honor to meet you. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
You're so Thank you. I appreciate you. And so let's get into it. We're talking about motherhood. When you think about motherhood, especially as a woman, you grow up and you're like, oh, okay, I'm a little girl. Like, okay, so when I'm grown, I'm going to have 2.5 kids, dog. I don't even know what 2.5 is. Like, what is that? Like 2 grown kids and then
I think that's like a godchild. I think that's like a godchild.
Yeah, like you would have adopted the neighbor's baby or something. I don't know. Right. But that's what they say, 2.5. But, I want to have, my kids, and then we're going to go do these things. And you have these ideas in your mind, especially as a woman. And so that's what you grow up your whole life looking forward to.
Right.
And so then the question is, like, for you, was it the same kind of situation? Was it just you grew up saying this is the kind of family I want and blah and so on and so forth?
Well, I grew up in a really large family. My mom had 7 siblings. So my mom had 7 siblings, and I always wanted to be a nurse. Always wanted to be a nurse. One of my mom's oldest sister was a nurse. And so I always wanted to be a nurse, and I wanted to have a lot of children. I wanted to have at least 4.
Okay.
At least 4. I wanted to have at least 4 children. My husband has a huge family, so we just wanted a lot of kids, and it's a lot of first cousins. So you can imagine, with my mother having 7 siblings, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't go too far below 4, right?
Exactly. You like, look, you gonna be in the family. You gonna have to have a whole bunch of little not ducklings, but kind of like the little ducklings. Like you just kind of following along. You got a whole trail of children. I understand. Yeah.
Be full and multiply.
Exactly. Like you better get it together. You at least need 5 or something, to kind of fit. I get that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So you're married. And how old were you when you got married?
Oh my gosh. I was very young when I got married. I actually got married while I was in college.
Oh.
Yes.
See? I mean, I'm not mad at you, but it's one of those things where I'm like, wow.
We got married insane.
Wow.
Got married really young. I was 21. I was 21 and he was 23.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So young love, you're married, both your husband and you decided we're going to go ahead and have a big old family. We're going to have all these children running around, loving us. Yes, exactly. And they're gonna just do their thing. Okay, cool.
Right,
So
right.
you started, when did you start? Because I understand 21, you may not want to start right away with the children,
Right.
but when did you decide to start?
Well, like I said, we got married when I was 21, and we actually were from Louisiana. My husband and I are natives of Louisiana. We moved to the Los Angeles area in 94, as soon as I graduated from Southern University in Baton Rouge. I mean, literally, I graduated in May, and 2 weeks later, we were headed to California, only because I think I probably would have left the night of the graduation if my brother was not graduated from high school.
Oh, wow. She was like,
So,
I am out of here.
right, right. It's like we're out. But he received a job offer in the Los Angeles area, so we moved out in 94. And we kind of started, we wasn't like heavy into it, but we really wanted to have kids. It took 4 years before I got pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. But you wanted to pretty much start kind of right away. It sounds,
Kind of. Just about 2 years after graduation. And
you're
like I
like,
said,
okay, let's
it
get
would
this
have
party started.
happened. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And so it took 4 years.
4 years.
Okay. So now you're 25. You're
Mhm.
like, okay, we're about to have our first child. What was that experience like?
Oh my gosh. We were excited. We were
Mm-hmm.
really excited when we found out we were pregnant. We
Mm-hmm.
were so excited. Of
Aww.
course, coming from huge families, and not only did my mom have lots of siblings, my husband's dad had nine. I believe it's nine.
Ooh.
I might have the number off, but nine siblings. So, and yeah,
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like
we
in
were
the
destined.
South and stuff, they were not playing around. They were like, look, we're gonna have to make sure this land is taken care of. These children are out here
Right?
taken care of. They were not playing around. Yes.
We were
Okay.
destined to have a multitude.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys are excited about this new baby.
Yes, we
Mhm.
were really excited. We were so excited that I literally flew back to my hometown to have a baby shower. So my mom's youngest sister helped coordinate it. So we had friends from college and high school, and we had this huge baby shower. And the crazy part about it, we didn't even think, how are we going to get all of these gifts back?
Like,
How
should
are
we
we
just
gonna?
take a U-Haul? Can I send this?
We were not thinking. We didn't think
Yeah.
that through at all. It's like, well, we'll just have to ship the gifts back, and but we were. That's how excited we were about
Yeah.
having a baby, and to find
Yeah.
out we were having a boy. That was
Aw.
even more
Yeah.
exciting, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, yes.
So so when did things kind of start to shift with that?
Well, probably like if the pregnancy was going really well. I
Mhm.
thought the pregnancy was going well. And one particular afternoon, my husband was preparing to go to LA Mass Choir rehearsal. He was one of the musicians for LA Mass Choir here in Los Angeles. And I left work early that day. My brother had football practice, and I picked him up from practice, got home early. And I kept telling him, I was like, I'm not feeling well. I don't know what's going on, but I'm just not feeling well. And so he decided not to attend rehearsal that evening. So the pain became persistent. It just became persistent. It wouldn't let up. So we decided to head to the hospital. Once we got in the car, I literally my back was facing the windshield of the car. I was holding on to the seat with my back to
Oh.
the windshield in the front seat because that was the only position that was comfortable for me. I was in so much pain. And it seemed like every time he hit a bump, I was like, oh God, this is just so bad. So we arrive at the hospital. My husband jumps out of the car and he's screaming, my wife's in labor. I think my wife is in labor. They took me straight to labor and delivery. Lo and behold, my placenta had abrupted. I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
My placenta abrupted. They took me straight in for surgery, had a C-section. He was doing fairly well, right? He was doing fairly well.
And how far along were you?
I was 6 months pregnant.
Okay.
I was 6 months pregnant, knowing the sex of the baby. I could feel the movement. I mean, we were at the end of the second trimester. So we were on our way, right? So after he was born, they were like, he's really small, but he's going to be okay. And we're like, okay, all right. A few weeks passed by. I got up one morning. I felt like I was literally dying. I mean, I literally felt like I was dying. I couldn't explain it, but I just felt like my breath was leaving me, like I was dying. And I was sharing it with my husband. And he was like, girl, seriously? You feel like you're dying? And I said, no, seriously, I feel like I'm dying. So we decided to go to the emergency room because I was bleeding. I mean, I was really bleeding a lot. When I got to the emergency room, the doctor said, oh, Ms. Jones, you just started your menstrual cycle over. That's all. That's all. And it just still didn't sit well with me. I felt like it was something more, and I couldn't explain it. So we left the emergency room. We went to the hospital to visit the baby because, of course, here it is. I'm just a few weeks old. In the South, you have to be taped up, locked up for 6 weeks before you come out of the house, right?
Yeah.
So we arrived at the hospital to see Cameron, and the doctors told us that he developed sepsis, which is an infection in your blood. And I was like, okay. We prayed with him. Still wasn't feeling that great. So we went home. We got on our knees. We prayed again for the baby. Minutes later, we received a phone call, and it was the hospital. And they said, Cameron has taken a turn for the worse. We need you to come back to the hospital. And I'm like, what? We just left. We just left the hospital. How could this be? So we decided we're going to pray again. We're going to pray again. So we got back on our knees. We started praying. My brother walked in with the phone and he said, it's the hospital on the line again. And they told us that Cameron had passed away. So that feeling of death that I was feeling, it went away. So I was feeling the death of my child. So it wasn't necessarily me, but it was a part of me that was transitioning, and I didn't understand it. I couldn't explain it. And as soon as we got the word that he passed away, that feeling just went away.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is devastating. I feel like that's even an understatement for how you were feeling. So what was the next moment like? What does that look like on the other side of that?
Well, instantly, when someone passes away, you have that support group that helps out to say, hey, this needs to happen. And, who has life insurance on an unborn child, right?
Yeah.
We had to plan a funeral because it wasn't like we had a miscarriage per se. We gave birth to this beautiful baby boy, and he's alive, thriving. And now we have to plan a funeral. And so it's like, okay, well, what type of funeral? Well, how much is it going to cost? What kind of casket? Do we invite people? Do we go to a church? What do we do? And trying to swallow the emotions a little bit in order to move forward with it. It was devastating. I instantly just became sad and depressed. depressed. I was really depressed.
Gosh. Okay. So, and then I'm thinking, you have all this, because it's one thing if it is a miscarriage, like that's hard in and of itself. That's
It's
difficult
hard.
in and of itself.
Miscarriages are difficult. By no means,
Yeah.
am I dismissing that. Miscarriages are tough.
Yeah.
They are tough. It's tough because you bond. Even with a miscarriage, you begin to bond with that child in your womb at weeks of conception. So,
but then to give birth,
yes,
hold your child, see your child, and then, I mean, he's named, you have all these ideas about what you're going to do, and okay, what school, like your mind is going there.
Yeah.
And then to feel your child inside of you, like to feel the energy of death with your child, that is something I've never really heard that, but that makes a lot of sense to me, that you will be that connected in that way. How did your family react?
With our family, they were quiet. Our parents were really quiet. I think they were trying to figure out how to console us. Ironically, my husband lost his oldest sister when she was 25 years old. And so I know that my husband's parents knew what it felt like to lose a child. Not the way that we lost our son, but loss is loss, right? It's the pain is different depending on how it occurred. I think for some people, but loss is loss and pain is pain. So they were trying their best to console us, but they could only be here for so long with us until they left.
Yeah.
So it was tough for them. And the other part is, you have those people console the mom and the dad, but the grandparents, they've lost as well. My brother lost his nephew. My, brother and sister-in-law, they lost a nephew. So we all lost.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you're dealing with the emotions from that. You're like, I don't even know how this works. Funeral, like, how do I do this? There's so many emotions wrapped up in that. There's the pain of it. There's the disappointment, as in, like, this is not what it was supposed to look like in my mind.
Yes.
You see it going completely different, obviously.
Right.
And what was life like after that? How was the healing process for you?
It was a process. It was a slow process. I learned to journal. I journaled a lot. I still have stacks and stacks of journal. And whenever I got to a point where I was feeling low, if I was not able to pray out loud, I would begin to write my prayers in my journal. And so writing in my journal was a form of release for me. And I still journal today because it just helps me so much in particular. So we begin to do that and just to console each other. But even with the loss, we were still like, God, you got us. You got us. You allowed this to happen for a reason. We trust you. We're going to take a deep breath and we're going to press forward.
Okay.
We're going to press forward. It hurts, but we're going to press forward.
Okay. So in that, I remember you mentioning after your experience, then going to other friends' baby showers and things like that. And I was just like, ooh, how's that for you? Because there's one thing to be in your own grief and to go through your own healing process. But then it's just kind of like being painfully single, so to speak, and then going to your best friend's wedding or your little sister's wedding, you
Right.
know? And so the very thing that you desired, this other person gets that experience, and you like, how was that for you?
It was very difficult to attend baby showers. I had a group of friends that were pregnant. It was a huge group of us that were pregnant. And in spite of how I was feeling, I wanted to make sure I was a better person by supporting them in spite of my loss.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what I did. It's like, this hurts. Whew, here I go. It's like preparing yourself to go to a baby shower. It's like, okay, what are people going to say to me when I arrive? Are they going to say, are you okay? Because I think sometimes when people go through things and when someone continuously asks you, are you okay? It just makes you want to cry, right?
Yeah, because it brings up the emotions again.
Right. But if they don't address it, I think you feel a little bit better about it, but you're praying and you're like, please God, don't let anyone ask me if I'm okay.
Yeah. Wow.
If you know, playing the games and what have you, is trying to stay engaged in the activities at hand. It was difficult to attend, but I pressed.
Yeah. Okay.
I pressed because I wanted to be that friend to support no matter what I was going through.
Wow. I mean, that's huge, because some people, they just like, look, I'm gonna have to sit this out. Like, wow. So, so you and your husband decided you wanted to try again?
Yes.
Okay. So you wanted to try again. How long did you wait?
2 years.
Okay. Okay.
2 years. We
Okay.
waited 2 years. I felt like that was enough time for your body to heal, what have you. So we waited 2 years.
Okay. So what was that process like? How was the pregnancy? What was going on?
With the second pregnancy, we found out we were pregnant around the same time. I just had this feeling that I was pregnant, and we wasn't really surprised about it. But during this particular pregnancy, I found out that I had a condition called thrombosis. And I had to give myself injections of heparin in my stomach during that pregnancy.
Oh, oh my. So are these like hormones of some sort, or?
Well, the thrombosis, with this particular condition, giving myself injections of heparin was to increase the blood flow to my unborn son. So, and I was like, oh, okay, is that what happened the first time? Maybe that has something to do with it too.
Yeah.
The baby's not getting enough blood flow. So we were told that we needed to do that. I had to go to a class to learn how to do it. My husband was like, okay, that's where you've lost me. I'll do it if I have to, but I don't know if I feel comfortable. I think he felt like he would be hurting the baby, giving me injections in my stomach. And I was like, I got this. Again, I wanted to be a nurse, right? So I was like, okay, I'm good. I can do this. So I carried my little syringes around, a little cute lunch bag with little stones on them, just to make sure it was making it fun for myself, encouraging myself through the process. But one particular evening, my husband started working at this church, and I was sitting in the back of the church waiting for him to finish up, and I started feeling bad. And I was like, oh God, okay. So we went home, packed a bag, headed to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, the nurse was like, hey, can you give us a sample? We just need a little urine sample. Sure, not a problem. I went in the restroom to proceed as requested, and clots and clots and clots of blood began to flow. No, God, this can't be happening to me again. Literally, Audra, I was in labor. I was 5 months pregnant.
Oh, God.
I was 5 months pregnant in labor. And I was like, this can't be happening to me again. I mean, literally, they started to give me medication to help with the contractions because I started having contractions. They literally had the bed almost upside down where my head was leaning all the way back to try to keep the baby in. But he slipped in the birth canal. He slipped in the birth canal.
Slipped? Oh, God.
Slipped in the birth canal. Literally, as this was happening, the doctors are like, you have to give birth to this baby. There's nothing once the baby slips in the birth canal, you're at that point, you're pushing.
Wow.
You have to push. So I knew there was a 99% chance he was not going to make it. The doctors told us he's not going to make it. The hospital wasn't even prepared to care for him. So I literally was in labor, giving birth to a child that I knew was going to die. Yes.
What is going through your mind in that moment? I mean, because I just, like, in that moment, is it a level, did you ever feel guilt? Did you ever feel like, God, why are you teasing me? What is going on here?
It was a range of emotions going on in my head. Like, God, really? I can't believe this is happening to me again. I just can't believe this is happening to me again. We're 2,000 miles away from home. And of course, this is 2 years later after the first child. We're 2,000 miles away from home. No family. I mean, we had a cousin that lived in the area. But in that moment, it was just painful. And your mind starts racing because you're thinking about what happened the first time. Mm-hmm. Now I have to go through the same process to bury another child, 2 years apart, 2 boys.
Wow. So like, I'm just like, what do you do with that? How was this different? This second experience different than the first for you?
For me, I think I got to a point where I was really concerned about my husband more than myself. Because when you have a baby, right, people tend to console mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They forget about dad.
Yeah.
They kind of forget about dad. I literally felt like my husband was falling apart right before my very eyes.
Wow.
And I turned off my emotions for a moment, like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what he's feeling, especially when people continue to, are you okay? How are you? Are you okay? And he's right there.
And nobody's saying anything to him. Yeah.
Gosh. People can console to some degree, but not as much. I was getting all the love.
Yeah.
I was getting all of the love.
Wow. So they're not really consoling your husband. They're just focusing their energy on you. Mm-hmm. And how was he doing?
Not good. Not good. My husband is he's a very outgoing person, very funny, ridiculously hilarious. We'll have you in stitches all the time. To see him silent is huge. Huge to see him silent. And you can just see, I could see, and I mean, I have a visual right now, I can just see it. The pain in his face and his eyes. It was something about that look in his eyes
Yeah.
that just read, I am hurting so bad right now. This is tough. My legacy. This
Yes.
is my legacy. This is my second son, my second seed. This is rough.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned how the male emotion as it pertains to this situation, because unfortunately that is kind of what happens. When you think about a miscarriage, you don't think about dad. You don't think about the man and what he experienced and how he's feeling and how he's doing, and
Right.
you're not thinking about that. And so I wonder what men feel like if a woman has a miscarriage. He feels a level of vulnerability because now he can't actually help his wife. He's not
Absolutely.
able to protect. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's really huge. Say that you have a child, a daughter, but you said, okay, no, we're not doing that again. We're not revisiting.
I said that, right?
Yeah.
I
We're
said
not
that.
going to go there. No, thank you. This is obviously not in God's plan for our lives. And what happened?
Well, my wonderful mother had a dream about catfish.
Oh, mamas, and those dream about fish. You know
See,
what that means.
you already know. You already
what that
know.
means.
She had a dream about fish, and she was like, you need to take a pregnancy test. I had a dream about fish, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I am not pregnant. But to satisfy her, I took the test, right? I took the test. It was negative. So
Okay.
I was like, it's negative. We're good. We're good. She would not let up. She wouldn't let
Wow.
up. And I said, okay. So we took the test again. Lo and behold, Alicia was expecting.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So now you're expecting. Now, question. Did she have a fish dream with the first two pregnancies? Okay.
No,
The
I
first,
don't remember it at all.
you don't remember her
But
having a
this
dream?
particular time, no.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So in your
Yeah.
mind, when you found yourself, when you took the test and you're like, okay, I'm having a baby, what was the first thing that popped in your mind?
A little nervous. Nervous thinking about the previous kids, of course, um, making sure that I did everything possible to take care of myself. And not that I didn't do that in the first two pregnancies, because I generally, I eat well. I'm a pretty healthy person, athlete in high school, still running, exercising. So I was in pretty great shape.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that I had a bad eating habits and what have you. But we were scared. We were scared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a little nervous. We were a little nervous about it, but we met a wonderful doctor who decided to run multiple tests, and he discovered that I had an incompetent cervix. I had a very weak cervix.
First of all, incompetent sounds a little harsh for a cervix. That just seems a little like,
Yeah.
like, I'm sorry, my cervix is not incompetent. Maybe my cervix is a little lazy sometimes, but not incompetent.
Yes.
No, I hear you. So
Terminology, right?
right? I'm like, whoa. That sounds a little personal. My cervix does not like that. You got to speak life to this cervix, okay?
Yeah.
So was he saying that was the reason for what happened before, and that's why the babies came early? That was his reason?
That's what he felt
Okay.
was happening. That weak cervix, and pretty much he said, I feel like you should have been on bed rest. at Fort, like really early on in the pregnancy.
Mm.
Yes.
So when you hear that, do you feel like you wish that's what you were told? Those, did you feel like maybe they weren't looking to see what the issues were early on in your previous pregnancies? How did that information set with you?
I didn't think that immediately. I probably didn't think about that until years later, honestly, because at that moment, my focus was on getting a healthy kid into the world. So I tried not to allow what happened in the past to really impact the pregnancy, because you have to be careful your mindset, that the baby feel your emotions and they feel everything that's going on. So I try to remain positive during that pregnancy, because I just didn't want her to get any type of negative vibe, just sending all good love, good feelings, good music.
Wow, yes.
So
Yes.
again, turning that focus off of me onto someone else.
Yeah, so you were mindful. I think that's important. That's incredibly important, is to be mindful of what's going on in your inside of you, because your baby's going to pick up that energy. They're going to feel whatever you're feeling. So you're just like, you know what? I'm glad he at least talked about the cervix. So did you go on bed rest? When did you go on bed rest, I guess?
Probably around 4 months.
Okay.
Around 4 months of pregnancy, I was told, you are on lockdown pretty much until you have this baby.
Okay. And I bet you were just like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, okay, no problem.
Okay.
Whatever he said,
whatever it takes.
I was going to do it, because when you think about it, it was like a different diagnosis from the first two. So of course now you would think, okay, so it was probably this situation with the first pregnancy and a combination. You try not to like beat yourself up in the head like, was it really thrombosis, or was it really? Yeah, I believe that's what it was, but it could have been a combination.
Okay. So how long between the second pregnancy and the third?
2 years.
Okay.
I had the 2-year thing going, apparently.
I feel like that makes sense. You were like, you know what? Okay, I went through the process, the healing, all of that. All right, I guess it's time. Okay, so what was this third pregnancy like? Was it different? How was it for you? I mean, outside of bed rest, I know that's not always fun, but how was it for you?
That wasn't fun at all. Well, I did a lot of reading. Lots of journaling, of course, lots of praying. And of course, I couldn't cook. I love to cook, but I couldn't cook. I couldn't do anything for myself at all, because I wasn't able to. It wasn't that I couldn't do it. I was encouraged not to. To do anything. So the pregnancy was going wonderful. It was going, I mean, to me, I thought it was going great. Here I was, I got to 35 weeks and everything was still going okay. I started feeling contractions. And at that point, my doctor's like, okay, so this is what we're gonna hospitalize you. We're gonna place you in the hospital until you have the baby. And I was like, okay, no problem. We'll do that. We'll pack up and go to the hospital. And probably about 2 weeks later, we had to select a time frame to have the baby. A couple weeks later, I was walking down the hall in the hospital, felt the pain, and voila, here I go again. My uterus ruptured into pieces.
What?
My uterus ruptured into pieces.
Okay. I've never heard of, like, What is that?
It's literally like a heart attack of the womb. That's the best way for me to describe it.
Oh my God. So what did that mean? What happened to, like, what did that mean to your baby?
Well, from that, from my uterus rupturing, she suffered a lack of oxygen to her brain. She suffered a lack of oxygen to her brain, and literally we were told that she was pretty much brain dead. There was only one part of her brain functioning. Yes.
Okay. What is happening in your mind during this time? I mean, you've already been on bed rest. You're doing everything that you can do to bring a healthy child into the world. They have you in the hospital. You say you just walk a couple feet or something?
Just walking down the hall.
Just so you can get some exercise, so you're not just like so your muscles don't atrophy, basically.
Right.
Thinking.
Yeah. Just
And
walking down the hall, and life turns upside down again. And I think at this moment, I recall I was really ill. Just to kind of like back up, I was really, really sick because I'm not supposed to be here. I should have died that day, but I didn't, because so many women who go through ruptured uterus, they don't survive. Someone doesn't make it most of the time. And the fact that I was hanging on, my daughter was hanging on, and my poor husband, here it is. It's like, oh my gosh, I could lose my wife and my child. This is insane. And literally for doctors to say, there is nothing else we could do for this kid. She is brain dead. I mean, she's literally brain dead. She's on a ventilator. She's not breathing on her own. She can't see. She can't hear. She's literally a vegetable.
oh my God.
And at that moment was when I really lost it.
Oh.
I cried. And I remember just screaming out, why me, God? Why? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I mean, I was broken. I was really broken. It was rough.
Mm.
It was really rough. But even in the midst of that, I heard the voice of God say, well, why not you?
Mm. Mm.
You're always encouraging people. And it's crazy. And I know for some to hear me say that, did you say, why not? You know, did you say, okay, God, what? Like this can't be happening. And we were just told if she lives, she's going to be a vegetable. You're not going to be able to take care of her. You are not going to be able to take care of her. She can't swallow. There's nothing this kid can do on her own. Period.
Wow. First of all, I just want to say you are amazing, because you are very patient. Two,
thank you.
Like, I want you to know that as I'm listening to you, I am truly in awe, because there's so many people that would have just said, you know what? I have an issue with you, God.
Right.
I have an issue with this concept of sovereignty and love that God is supposed to have.
Right.
that you would have just totally said, you know what? I'm not dealing with you anymore.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, I want you to know that I'm hearing you. I'm hearing lying in the hospital after you've already twice lost children, almost died this third time. And now they're saying that your daughter is going to be brain dead for the most part, that she's just not going to be able to function.
Right. Right.
I want people to hear and let that settle, because it may not look like their situation may not look like your situation at that time.
Right.
But they are in a situation where it looks all bad. There's not anything that looks like it has redeeming quality to it in any form or fashion. It's not, and it's just not okay. And they don't know how they're going to navigate through that. It's like, come on. Come on. I'm just trying to bring life. I'm trying to be fruitful and multiply. And I can't do that.
Right.
That's not fair. That doesn't feel fair, And so I just, I say that to say that I'm truly just listening to this, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Yes.
To hear you.
Yes.
And you're like, God says, well, why not you in this moment? And you actually being able to receive that. Because so many people are just like, look.
Yeah, done. I to say, whatever, God, I don't believe in you anymore. And I thought about Job in the book of Job, where Job lost everything. But yet he still trusts God. And even in the midst of that, I still trust God in the midst of it. It was crazy. And I think sometimes I was saying it, and when I say it, it's just like the strength that God placed in me was just unbelievable. Now, I'm not saying by no means that I didn't cry. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't disappointed. I mean, at that moment, like I said, that moment, I was just like crying uncontrollably, like, oh my God, this can't be happening. And God, but in the midst of that, though, in the midst of that, I want to back up for just a second. When my mother flew in to be with my husband and I, she said, I have some encouraging words for you from one of my coworkers. And I'm like, okay. And that coworker told her, when you get to California, you tell your daughter that God said her daughter shall live and not die. She didn't know me. I really don't know how well she knew my mother, but that gave to my mother, and I held on to that. And then I began to say, God, if you let her go home, if you would heal her. Because remember, I never had an opportunity, Audra, to take any of my children home. Never.
Oh. Wow. That's powerful. I just want to bring my baby home.
Just want to bring her home.
Wow. Okay.
I just want to bring her home. Although they said, put her in an institution. put her in an institution. You're not gonna be able to take care of her. She can't do anything on her own. So that moment as a child that we spoke about earlier in the interview about me wanting to be a nurse, and although I had a different college, I ended up getting a degree in psychology, which, Jesus, I needed that too, right?
Yeah.
But God knew then that I would ultimately become a full-time nurse to my own child.
Wow. Okay. So you about to have me running around in
So
here.
it came full circle.
My God. My God. Wow.
And I don't think I put that in the book about me wanting to be a nurse. Yes.
See, I'm so glad that you said that, because that's the whole connecting the dots type of thing. You got to bring your child home.
Yeah.
Which is something that you're like, please, like, let me have this experience. Let me, and it was done for you.
Yeah.
You always wanted to be a nurse.
Yeah.
And now you are actually doing that. And I'm sure you never thought that it was going to connect in this kind of way. But I find that so interesting. Yeah. But I find it so interesting because even in my own story, when I think about my scars, I thought it was the worst part about me. It made me so ugly, and what am I going to do with this? This is the worst part about me. And it's so interesting that happened when I was a year and a half, but now it's the foundation, like my platform. It's very interesting how things connect.
Exactly.
Man. Wow. Yes. And so how old is your daughter?
She's 21.
21. Wow.
She's 21.
Wow. Yeah. And so when we're talking about her abilities and what she can do, is it exactly what they said, or did she have more function, or how has it been?
Well, current walk or eat on her own. She eats via G tube, so I have to connect the feeding tube to feed her several times a day. She has a beautiful smile. She loves laughing. Hearing her laugh is music to my ears. With us, or she's happy, or she's sad. She loves music, absolutely loves music. So she's not able to walk, talk, or eat on her own yet. I believe it's going to happen. I still believe it's going to happen. I don't know when, but I still believe that it's going to love on her and spoil her, and she's spoiled.
Nice.
Very.
Okay.
She's very spoiled. Yes.
Aww, that's amazing. See, I see the joy that she brings you. And I think that's amazing. Did you ever in your time, did you ever feel like, well, I see the connection and the nurse desires and all of that, but I still, this wasn't totally the picture, God, that I had in mind. I thought that she would be off, she would have been graduating from college, or, in your mind, did you ever go there?
Yes.
So for you, was it a situation where, did you linger in that space of, why am I not going to her graduation? Why did it have to be this way? Or did you just kind of say, you know what, I got a chance to bring her home and I'm happy about that?
Well, I just changed the whole scheme of that. So what we decided to do was to make sure she was involved in every single thing possible. So she was a debutante for Alpha Kappa or sorority, and she was the first special need debutante for this chapter, Eta Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. And she was the first special needs debutante, and it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. We decided, a friend of mine told me years ago when she was very young, my friend Vanessa told me years ago, she said, Genesis is going to be the first special needs debutante for my chapter. And I was like, okay. And lo and behold, when it was time, she approached my husband and I and said, okay, are you guys still in? And it was the best experience, not just for her, but for the other young ladies involved, because some of those debutantes had desires to be special education teachers. So it was the perfect season for her to be a debutante. And we just made a promise to God that we would make sure we have her involved, that she would be included. Inclusion is big for us. We always want to make sure she's included. So that was something big that happened for her a few years ago. And oh my gosh, it's a night that I will never forget, with her being in her white ball gown and her makeup and her hair all pressed out. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So although I haven't had a chance to see her walk across the stage yet, because I believe God will still do it, even at a later time frame. So
Wow.
But yeah, that was one of the things that happened that was really huge.
Okay, so I just have to say, wow. I'm seeing it in my mind. I'm picturing that in my mind. And one of the things that it is so phenomenal about that to me is that it's a situation where you can't, like, you inspire people on different levels. It's big, it's deep. Like, for instance, we had a guy on the show. He is an athlete, incredible athlete, works hard, but he developed a disease called CMT. So now he was looking to go to the Olympics, but as a child he developed this disease, so he cannot feel his legs or feet.
Wow.
Literally, there's an like a neuropathy, and they don't like. He shouldn't even be able to walk. Literally,
yeah,
not be able to walk. And then he finally had to give up, so to speak, or surrender rather, this dream of going to the Olympics because of that. Right. But now he's in the Paralympics. So that is, so
wow.
He's in the Paralympics, but he was just like, I didn't realize that, I wanted to be in the Olympics. That was my dream, the Olympics. Like, that was just it. But he's like, now I get to be an incredible athlete and I get to inspire people at the same time.
Exactly.
I was like, woo! God plays no games.
That's right. That's it.
Yeah. And so when I'm hearing this, it's like, yeah, she could have been debutante, not special needs, but just, right out there with all the other young women. And that's wonderful. That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But this is a whole other element of inspiration that without even trying, she's just there. And she's, yeah. And so now other people are like, wow. And they're looking within themselves and saying, man, She's incredible right now. She's shining right now.
Right.
And
Right.
and we don't have the same, like, we have different life experiences, but I'm seeing her being amazing, and I'm just, wow, okay, I need to step
Yeah.
out there further. I need to do more of this. And to have a mom, because it sounds to me, it could have been totally different. It sounds to me like a mom
Yeah.
and a dad
Yeah.
who agree that, you know what, life is going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds to me like you two agree that she's not going to want for anything. There's not going to be lack. There's not going to be pity or whatever
Right.
negative.
Right.
It sounds to me like you're like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
we're about to go out here and be great.
Right.
And we're going to have these experiences
Mm-hmm.
that even someone without special needs may not have had. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly. Because there are many kids who did not have that opportunity, who is not in a wheelchair.
mm-hmm.
Right. And so we believe, and I stand on these P's, that there's purpose. There was purpose behind the pain. There was purpose behind the pain that we went through. I mean, the prayer, we prayed, we were patient, but there was purpose. I mean, even today, we're still encouraging people.
Yeah.
Because what better thing to do but continue to inspire? And she brings out the best. She literally brings out the best in other people. She really does. Her smile. And like I said, I recall there was a moment when she was born, there was a couple that was going through a very difficult time in their marriage. And they were contemplating getting a divorce.
Yeah.
And they decided to, look, we're going to come together and pray for this baby girl. We're going to pray for this baby girl. And in the midst of them praying for my daughter, God healed their marriage.
Oh, okay. You about to have me crying over here. That is what is happening.
Yes. And so when I see so many different things that happen, there were people in other countries praying for her. It was just amazing, the people that were praying for her. And it was like, I felt like God used her life to pull people together, to remember who he was and to seek his face. And not to be super deep and spiritual about it, but there was just so many different things that happened in the process. It gave us an opportunity. I mean, I recall multiple times, and she drools a lot. So kids would come up and go, ew, she's drooling. And I would ask the parent, if it was a kid, is it okay if I explain why she drools? And so I would explain to them that, she wants to have a friend like you have friends. She can't help it if she's drooling. There are certain parts of her brain that doesn't function like yours does. So,
Wow.
and to explain it to them, they're like, the light bulb goes on in their head, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'll be her friend.
Wow, your daughter is teaching people compassion.
Yes.
And love.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's truly, truly phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's something that it's not anything that you can just, you couldn't have just planned that.
No. Oh my gosh.
Mm-mm.
I probably would have,
Exactly. Exactly. And it just makes me think, like, wow, you just never know the impact. You never understand, how your story, especially the parts that are really difficult, like how it's going to all come together and work together for good.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of times we as individuals, if we're going through that difficult moment, we just, the concept of good, you lose sight of it sometimes. You don't, because you can't see past what's in front of your face at the moment.
Right.
And so it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like you were just like, you know what, I have faith. I truly am going to be walking in faith that, you know what, whatever this situation is, it like, if she's here, some good stuff is going to happen. I mean, from you talking about okay, I need to make sure we do a quick recap for people, really quick. Okay. Okay. So basically, it's like, can I just bring my daughter home?
Yes.
And she didn't even know if that was going to happen. And then she gets a word, your daughter shall live. What? This is from far away. She gets the word, your daughter is going to live. So now she brings her baby home. And you wanted to be a nurse. That's what you wanted to do.
Right.
And God was like, well, I'm not about to have you just nursing all up in these hospitals, because that's normal.
Right.
That's just that, you know, and it's wonderful. We need our nurses. Thank you, all the nurses.
Yes.
We need you. We love you.
Talk to our nurses. Yes.
Yes. Amazing. But you got a chance to nurse your baby girl.
Right. To have the ultimate patient.
Exactly. And now she's a debutante. Like what is?
Right. Yes. Amazing.
What? And she's inspiring people. You're teaching young children to see people through the eyes of compassion.
Yes. Absolutely.
I mean, this to me sounds like all types of love. God is all up and through there. There's so much goodness in there. And the only way everything that I've heard you say, you're just like, okay, God, I'm choosing to see the good. I'm choosing to be in a space of love. I'm choosing to be in a space of faith through this. And gosh, that's just a big deal. That's a big deal. And it's so easy not to do that. It's so easy to say, to chalk it up.
Right. Right.
It's easy to chalk it up and become bitter.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is why I said, yes, I was depressed.
Yeah.
I was sad.
Yeah.
I was hurt.
Yeah.
But
it's that something inside, that faith. God was like,
that's true.
Keep going. I have something on the other side of this for you, for your family.
Right.
And even if the picture looks a little different than you thought it was going to look.
Exactly.
At you.
Right.
Woo!
Not like we imagine. Not like we imagined.
Not. But beautiful nonetheless.
Yes.
Powerful. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. So, I mean, I need you to know that this is a big deal. This is a big deal to me because I'm so grateful to have this platform, to have this opportunity to speak with people. I'm just like, how do you do it? How did you do this? Yeah. And I'm looking, and I truly am in awe of God when I hear your story. And for who you are individually, because you had that choice. You had that choice to say, yeah, we're going to do this, or nah, I'm down for the count.
Right.
And you chose to stick in there and to move forward. And so you know, and this is not condemning anybody that's like, look, I'm down for the count for a while.
No, right.
But don't stay down for the count forever,
Right.
is all I'm saying.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So what would you say to someone who has lost a child, who, you know, or who has a child with special needs, and it gets hard? It gets to that point where it's just like, I don't know if I can, like, maybe their dream wasn't to be a nurse.
Right.
And this is just something, what do you say to that person? They're just like, I don't know, sis. I don't know if I can do this.
Right. Well, I always say to folks that, sometimes we feel like we can't cry, that we're supposed to just be strong all the time. And I say to that mom or dad, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry, okay to be disappointed, but don't stop there, because ultimately someone is depending on you. Someone is depending on you to get, because a lot of times the things that we go through are not just for us, to help someone else get to that journey. Not to give up. They need you. You are their number one advocate. They're depending, and that hang in there. I can't make promises that it's going to happen. Maybe it's not God's will for it to happen. Maybe it's his will for you to adopt or to be godmother to 10, 15, 20 kids. We don't know, but to hang in there, keep your head up, and to seek counseling if you feel like you need to. A lot of times we put that on the side. We feel like because we're strong and we believe in God, we have faith, we skip the mental health that we need. So nothing is wrong with seeking a support group or a counselor to help you through the process. You don't have to go through this alone. There's so many people out there going through what you're going through. They just haven't shared their story yet. And I found that sharing was healing for me.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. That's great advice. Great advice. Do not feel like you have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone.
yes.
There are other people to connect with. Find a group near you. Someone, I'm sure, especially right now, they have a lot of things that can even be online. So even if it's not in your community, you can still connect with people online and get the support that you need. And I like that, because a lot of people do feel like, I have to do it on my own. This is the only option for me. And it's just like, no, it's not the only option.
Right.
And yeah. And what I also hear is, it's not always going to look like the way you wanted it to look. And like you said, maybe it looks like adoption. Maybe it looks like being a parent to your godkids, or whatever the case may be. But knowing that things work together for good, I think is something that can really, really assist people in their process. And so thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so excited. How can people, because I know you have a book, you're an author, you have shared your story.
Yeah.
And, we can only get so far with the story. I feel like we got a lot of the story in there.
Oh, yes.
A lot of that in there.
We did.
But sometimes when it's written down, you can pick up so much more.
Absolutely.
And so, I want people to know, how can they connect with you? How can they purchase your book? And How can they do that?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you, my dear HBCU sister. Thank you so much for having me on your show. As you stated, I have a new book out, Sentenced to Live.
Yes.
The book is available on Amazon. Barnes and Noble has it, Goodreads. You can also follow me on Instagram at Alicia Sutton Jones. That's Alicia Sutton Jones on Instagram. And I'm on Twitter at Alicia S. Jones 1 and Facebook at Sentenced to Live.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, check the description. We'll have all of her information in there for how to connect with her. And thank you just so much for sharing. This is very powerful. And I know that women who have been through some things will say, oh my God, thank you for sharing your story and being strong for them.
Yes.
Because it's sometimes it's like I need to see somebody that's made it through all the shenanigans.
Right. Yeah.
And thank you for being that light. Thank you for being that example of perseverance and faith. All of that. It's a big deal. You and your husband